Guillaume Desmal here, host of the E-commerce Wizards podcast, where I feature leaders in e-commerce and business. Today's guest is Mike Jackness, who's the CEO of Terran.com. He also runs another company called EcomCrew, which is very interesting. We'll be talking in a moment. This episode today will be very varied, I believe, in discussion. We'll be talking about entrepreneurship, starting new business venture, because Mike has created many. He creates one brand after another. How do you get traffic to those new websites? How do you make this a success? It's easy to create a new website, but how do you transform this into a success? So we'll go to personal experience, what he's willing to share and how he goes about it and so on. Before we get started, I have a shout out to John Corcoran of Rise 25 Media. I want to thank you for doing this introduction to Mike. Otherwise, there would be no podcast today with Mike. And our sponsorship message. This episode is brought to you by MageMontreal. If a business wants a powerful e-commerce online store that will increase their sales, or to move piled up dormant inventory to free up cash reserves, or to automate business processes to gain efficiency and reduce human processing errors, our company, MageMontreal, can do that. We've been helping e-commerce stores for over a decade. Here's the catch. We're specialized and only work on the Adobe Magento platform. We do everything Magento. If you know someone who needs design, development, maintenance, training, support, we got their back. Email our team, support@MageMontreal.com, or go to MageMontreal.com. That's MAGE Montreal.com. All right, Mike, thank you for being here today.
Of course.
So a little fun fact here. I saw that your company is called Terran. Your previous company was called Protos Marketing.
Yeah.
So obviously you're a big StarCraft fan for that video game. I'm also a big fan, but I didn't go as far as naming my company after.
It's funny. It actually had very little to do with StarCraft, although I am a very big StarCraft fan. And I knew what was happening at the time. It was happening. The Protos thing is actually spelled a little different. I think Protos in StarCraft was with two S's, and that Protos thing was with one. But actually,
you could get away with that if you had not named your next company Terran.
I agree. But I had nothing really to do with that name other than saying, let's just use it.
Okay.
We had created a company called Poker Source Online. We had one business. It's funny how this same thing kind of ends up happening over and over again, no matter what industry I'm in. And as it got successful, we started creating a bunch of different sites and buying other sites. And we needed a holding company. And I tasked one of my employees with finding a name, and I didn't want to pay more than like $8 for it. And he came back with like Protos as like some Greek god of some sort. And I was like, that sounds like something out of StarCraft, which we all played at the time. But he found it. Maybe that's how we thought of it. I don't know. But yeah, Terran, I know also another StarCraft thing. But I neither confirm or deny the StarCraft link. But I am a fan.
But since you have a video game analogy here, or a link to some degree, like it opens a bit of philosophical question. Like, the time you enjoy gaming, was it time wasted? I spent so many hours on that game, StarCraft. I'd say, okay, yeah. I learned a few strategy thing here and there, but overall, like, if I'm honest myself, it was mostly a big waste of time. I mean, I could have learned some other skill or something like that, but it was enjoyable. So it opens up that sort of debate. Is time that you enjoy with entertainment, a little bit of it, I guess, is just good for the mental balance. But if you have too much of that video game, then you're just not being productive or learning new skills.
I definitely wasn't productive in the years that I played that game. It was it's actually the only game I've ever called in sick to work for.
Wow.
Fun fact. Okay. I had the clout to do it because I had been at this company, I think, for like 4 or 5 years at this point, and I like never took sick days, and I was just like, I'm addicted to this game and I want to stay home and play it, today. I think I found it on a Friday, and it was like Monday morning, and I was like, still like, give me the needle in the arm. And I called in sick Monday, and I think I was pretty honest. I was just like, I don't feel like coming to work today, and I don't want to tell you why. But and my boss was like, okay, because I kind of had built up that credibility to be able to do that at that point.
Well, I prefer that. An employee that does not BS you. Like, don't tell me why. Don't tell me you're sick if you're not.
Yeah. I mean, I was a pretty good employee, and so, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. In terms of time wasted, oh man, I have quote unquote wasted, if you accumulate it, add it all up. I mean, years of my life playing video games over the years. I mean, especially when I was a kid. As a middle-aged adult now, like I'm afraid to even touch them because like I have a very compulsive, addictive personality, and so when I get into something, I have a very hard time stopping, and I can find myself lost in a game like that for a very long time. Next thing you know, my Apple Watch is like, dude, you need to get up and at least move around or something, right? Because it happens. But I also find that when I'm doing that, it's meditative in some respect, right? I'm not thinking about work or my other problems and challenges in life, and so I think it's a good escape if you can have a healthy balance. Which
I
that's
agree.
another.
I agree. It's all about the healthy balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very addictive game. I agree with you. It was a lot of fun as a teenager and so on. Okay, so it was fun discussion because anybody who's played a lot of games, and it's curious to see their point of view. Did you see that as wasted time or not? But yeah, it went by the thousands of hours as we were teenagers and young adults. But all right, let's move on. Like, what's interesting here about what you're doing, I find, is that you're creating new brands, you're creating new companies, and you seem to be, creating them one after another here. And you're starting those new e-commerce store. Of course, you do Amazon stuff as well, but you do your own website. So let's go to the process. Let's say you want to start again another brand, and how do you go about it? Like selecting the next product. What kind of criteria, what goes through your mind? And this might help some people who want to start a new venture, even if they have a successful one right now. Most entrepreneurs keep telling me about the new website projects they have in mind, or just somebody starting out.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously an evolution throughout the years, right? I mean, when I first got into e-commerce specifically in 2012, so it's been 9 years now. Things were very different. And when I first got into Amazon in 2015, which is really where our trajectory went crazy, things were very different on Amazon as well. I often joke that you could sell a bag of poop on Amazon and be successful, because like it didn't really matter. You can shoot your way to the top very easily as long as you were selling something that was at least halfway decent. I joke about the poop, but like as long as you had a halfway decent product, you could be very successful. It didn't really have to have much of a game plan other than like the quicker you can get more products up on Amazon, the faster you're going to increase your sales. And fast forward to 2021, things are very different. The competition on Amazon is very intense. I think it's going to continue to get more intense, and I think you need to have some sort of differentiation before you attempt to jump into that pond. There were years where Facebook ads were like the big money maker for a while there, right? Where also, like, I guess that would have been like around 2017ish or something when we first really started getting. Maybe it was 2016 even, started getting really heavy in the Facebook advertising when there wasn't a lot of people doing Facebook ads. Things were quite easy. And so I think that everything's a little bit different. Everything's a building block and learning journey. But the company that we had the most fun, the most success with was a company called conglomerate, which we sold in 2019, started from the ground up starting in 2016. And I think that made it successful, I think, is the same thing that would make a new brand successful today. We didn't invent an industry. And I think that that's very difficult to do, to go invent something from scratch. It means that people aren't even looking for it yet necessarily. But coloring books have become a big trend, and we thought we could improve upon them. We looked at all the reviews that were on Amazon and other platforms, the things that people complained about. Were pretty consistent. The books were printed on really cheap paper, and we fixed that. We used artist grade paper. People were complaining that the images were printed on the front and the back, and so when you colored the front, it ruined the back image. And so we just started printing single sided. And people complained that the book wouldn't lay flat. You think about a traditional paperback book, and it always kind of wants to close. And so we made spiral bindings. We put hardback covers on it so it can lay flat and you can color in your lap. We perforated the pages so you could rip them out and frame them, which were like another thing people were always like wishing that they could do. And again, I'm not an inventor. I don't hold any patents. I barely made it out of high school. I'm not all that intelligent at the end of the day. But I was able to solve these problems in an industry. And obviously, there's a leap of faith and some risk you're taking. You don't know if the audience is going to actually want all these things. And so we kind of put out a minimal viable product, which I'm a big fan of. Got some initial feedback, improved upon that even. And next thing you knew, we were doing 7 figures coloring book sales in our first year.
Well, that's really great. If you reach 7-figure like from scratch without having another business backing you to do that new startup. That is very quick growth path.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I look back at all these rocket ships I kind of created and attached my fingernails to as they're trying to go up. I mean, obviously in entrepreneurship, I'm not trying to profess that everything always went that way. I just, I've been doing it long enough that I've had now several successes. I've also had an equal number or maybe more failures. But it's fun. It's the thing that I think that the addicted entrepreneur yearns for. The gambler like wants the crazy craps roll, and the heroin addict wants the next high or whatever. And us addicted entrepreneurs want that next business that goes crazy. And certainly it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, so you channel that desire that you have for the video games elsewhere.
Exactly.
For your addiction
And
there.
I look at it very much like a video game in a lot of ways. I mean, the sales, the numbers, et cetera, are like the way to keep score. I'm very competitive, and it certainly comes from the video game part growing up. That was certainly, you're looking to get the highest score in Galaga or win the StarCraft battle or, become platinum or what was the top, I forgot the top level now in StarCraft, but like, you're keeping score somehow. And it's very similar for me. I've come to realize, because we've done well financially, and so like that isn't going to necessarily be the thing that, it's not going to change our lives one way or the other, but it's the thing that keeps me kind of like into it, and I enjoy it.
Very cool. Now, is it still the strategy for you to just like create new brands and to run them, or is you're creating them with the purpose of doing an exit? And is that sort of part of why you're creating multiple brands?
Yeah, I mean, we're always, I think that, again, you kind of learn things through many years of entrepreneurship. When I created my first company, selling it was not the reason I created it. And not until I was probably 10 years into entrepreneurship that I realized that you should always begin with the end in mind. And so we're always looking at, trying to keep ourselves in a position to sell anything at any time. You just never know when that offer is going to come through. I've found through the years that one who reaches out to you will pay way more than if you list it someplace, and just try to sell it to the masses. And so we always try to run our companies in a way that we're prepared to sell them at any time. I mean, we're not necessarily currently looking at that moment to do it, but you never know when things might come up. And so, yeah, I mean, that is one thing. Another thing that we really, discovered is that buying businesses is just as good, if not a better way to go. Our most recent brand is one that we purchased, with an SBA loan. In the United States right now, there's just stupid terms and money being sloshed around, and I felt like it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to go out and buy an existing business, and we've had a lot of luck doing that over the years. The thing that I like to look for is longevity of some sort, a business that has a track record, some sort of assets and hopefully defensibility, et cetera, but like is weak in certain areas that I feel like I'm good at, right? So like they're doing really well in every aspect of the business except for 1, 2, 3, or 4 disciplines that I feel like are my wheelhouse, and so the business we just bought was that type of thing. We have a great team that we've assembled now, mostly in the Philippines, that was able to go through and retool all the Amazon listings and make them better. We've now sourced all the products from China. The old owner was sourcing them domestically, so we've shaved 30% off of our COGS. We're launching 1 new product per week, and so we're getting really aggressive with launching new SKUs and building our revenue. And I have an SEO background, and they really hadn't focused on the website. And so we cranked up SEO on the website, and our sales have more than doubled on the website now. So altogether, we've put ourselves on a really kind of crazy trajectory, growing this business that we bought. And we hope to exit that one someday as well. So I think there's 2 ways to go about it. It's either something that's start from scratch, or you can, when you buy a business, you're eliminating all the mistakes that you might make, right? I mean, when you start a business as an entrepreneur, you got a 1 in 5, 1 in 3. No matter how good you are, it's always a 1 in something chance of being successful. 1 in 10, whatever. You buy an existing business, it's all the people that failed, those aren't the ones on on the business broker list, right? These are the successful ones that are left over that you get some track record with. So I'm actually a fan of both strategies, which are very different, obviously.
Yeah, but then there's the question that you did not personally have the learning, so it's important that you're familiar to some degree with the industry when you're buying.
Mhm.
Otherwise, there's so many examples in history that a very successful company buys another one in a different industry, and because you did not do all the learning curve, then it's why the person needs to be qualified to run it. But of course, if you're just buying
100% agree.
another e-commerce website, well, that is your field of specialization there.
But I mean, it's just as though it's another e-commerce website, or another Amazon property or whatever. The products were very different. The business we bought was not coloring books or ice packs. And you kind of take for granted um, exactly what you're talking about, right? You think, oh, well, it's just e-commerce, but there was a huge learning curve learning the products themselves. And so, my number one goal as we walked in the door on December 30th of last year when we bought the business officially was like, let's not F it up. Let's let's keep sales the same at least for the first quarter, and at least learn the ropes and understand what it is that we've bought, and what product does is well, and why one product's different than the other. I mean, we got very fortunate. The owner that we bought it from was the best you could ever hope for in terms of transition. I mean, it helped that we knew them ahead of time. But yeah, I mean, no matter what, there's always going to be a learning curve.
That's for sure. And the target market, the audience may behave very differently from uh, what you're used to. And we've seen this also in some other historical cases. You have like those great turnaround. The CEO took over like Chrysler, but then he takes over another business, and the mindset is different. He's not able to turn around again that second business at Lee Iacocca. I mean, because it's a completely different mindset for that different product there as to what the consumers are looking for. And if you miss that mark, that's not going to work
Yeah.
either.
I think that, one of the other things I've learned the hard way in entrepreneurship and life in general, I mean, when you have a success, you think it's easy to duplicate it no matter what it is, right? I mean, like think back to like the first business that I started and was really successful and made life-changing amounts of money. And that makes you think, oh, I can just go do that again. Like I'll just, replicate it all. But you take for granted a lot of things. Like number one, a lot of times there's a luck factor and just being at the right place at the right time. A lot of times, I mean, with the poker business, for instance, it just happened to be 2004 when I like got into this, and everybody wanted to start playing online poker. I think back to the computer consulting business I created. I was just in a very fortunate spot in time where everybody wanted a computer, but no one had one. This is back when I was, just getting out of high school. Same thing with some of the other affiliate marketing stuff that I had done. Same thing with some of the e-commerce stuff with Color It. It just so like what ends up happening in the future is you think you can just cut corners or replicate it by doing something differently, but take for granted all the other factors that contributed to that success. And I think that's where kind of arrogance or ego kicks in, and exactly what you're just talking about. You might have a CEO who was really successful running a car company, maybe jumps ship and goes to another car company or another Fortune 500 company or whatever, and fails miserably at it and doesn't think back to maybe there was just being at the right place at the right time, and a bunch of other outside factors also contribute to your success.
Yeah, do you have the right mindset to do that other job? And a completely
Yeah.
different CEO there, Greg Brenman, wrote a book Right Away and All at Once, and he's saying that his super successful CEO is another one for turnaround stuff, and he's saying that before he accepts any mandate, he does that checklist. Can I actually help this company? Am I able to identify the levers that you need to pull to make this business successful? And if not, actually, I don't take it. And sometimes they're surprised that I turn down the offer because it seems such a golden offer. So yeah, but I'm not the right guy for the job. I kind of don't see it, how I can pull the right levers to make that business grow in the right way. So there's that question. And it's back to your point that you're saying like, hey, we're way better in SEO than these guys are. Their weakness is my strength. So as an investor, I can buy this company and I can grow it. And it's typically how people buy companies, because either they believe they can take your company to the next level, or you're a strategic acquisition and maybe you become their internal department of whatever. Let's say we're a web agency. They need a web agency department in-house, and they're a very large corporation. So it's either a strategic acquisition or an acquisition because I believe I can grow this business that you have here way higher than you can. without the help of the investor. You know?
Absolutely.
So, and back to my first question, we talked about all kind of stuff, and I like it. It's fun. Let's say, how do you decide? What's your thought process about what's going to be the next venture? It's just like inspiration. You have some parameters, some criteria. How help me decide on how to start my next venture for an e-commerce business?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, again, like I said, I'm sometimes just not that smart. It takes me sometimes of like doing a bunch of stupid things to figure things out. And so like our first e-commerce business was treadmill.com. We had bought the domain name treadmill.com. I'm a domainer as well on the side. And so we owned treadmill.com for a while and decided we wanted to get into e-commerce, and we would just jump right into it, not knowing anything about e-commerce. And so the lessons learned there were, drop shipping is really frustrating because you don't control the shipping process, and shipping big, heavy pieces of equipment, on the backs of non-commercial, UPS type and FedEx type trucks is when you start shipping common carrier, it gets crazy. Missed appointments, damaged goods, all these other things. You're competing against map pricing and don't really have any differentiation of any kind. And so we just kind of learned the hard way, those types of things. And the next step was, okay, well, let's go do another business. I bought this business called IceWraps, which we still own today and has done very well. And it sold other people's products, but we physically bought them, put them in our warehouse, and did the inventory shipping ourselves. Eventually started doing private labeling and realized that, really at the end of the day, that we wanted to be as close to the source as possible and control our own destiny, which is when we started, creating other brands. And so, we think about things that are, a lot of the things that we were thinking about at the time were things that were light, easy to ship, that could, the standard could fit in a shoebox thing that a lot of people talk about. But then it's like everyone's racing to that spot. So I often try to be like racing someplace where people aren't. The old Wayne Gretzky quote of like skate to where the puck is going, not where it is. And so, I think about a lot of things now. The successful products that we have and things that we're looking at are things that maybe that are oversized. Things that people want to stay away from, or things that are not the home run products on Amazon, because the home run products kind of give you, no matter how good you are at building a brand and having good products, et cetera, if you have a product that does $100,000 a month or more on Amazon, you now have a bullseye on you, because every tool out there, Jungle Scout, Helium 10, et cetera, Elite Seller, you make it very easy to find these opportunities and these products. And so there's a joke, an old Far Side cartoon that I love, that I often mention in this example, where there's two deer talking to each other, and one deer has like this bullseye on his chest, and the other deer says to him, "That's a heck of a birthmark, isn't it?" So it's just like, I feel like I'm that deer with the bullseye on my chest or my back, when you have the big home run product. And so we're looking at hitting a lot of singles now and just staying under the radar. And so I think, a lot of things you really just got to adapt, learn from previous things that you've done. And another one of my favorite books is this one over here. I think it's on the shelf here. Maybe it's over here. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? And so I feel like the cheese is constantly moving, right? It's a stupid, like little, almost children's book, but it was handed to me 25 years ago now at my old job. And the message really resonated with me, which is just like, I think through the 8 years of e-commerce I've been doing, the cheese is constantly moving. So I think, a lot of what's working today might not work tomorrow. But the thing that we're really focused on today, to kind of really answer the question, is something that's really come full circle, which is really starting with content first. We've been building a lot of content type blog sites that start way at the top of the funnel, and we rank really well for a lot of organic search terms in a niche that we want to be eventually selling product in, and getting people on our email list and pixeling them and taking the very long road approach. Because a lot of things that people want to do these days are all, how can I cut corners, or what magic pixie dust can I sprinkle on something and just, snap my fingers and make $1 million overnight. We take the long road. So we've been, over the last 2 to 3 years, really about 3 years now, been building some pretty big content properties that rank for tens of thousands now of terms related to the niche that we want to be selling products in. And driving that traffic to our Amazon listings, to our Shopify stores, uh, getting people on our email list and communicating with them, having a Facebook group and communicating with them, having them pixeled so we can run really targeted ads to people. And we found a lot of success with that. And that really kind of goes back to the first thing I did online back in 2003 with affiliate marketing and SEO, and just realizing that that source of organic traffic just really pays for itself over time, and it's definitely worth the effort put into it.
So you're creating blog sites and content sites, you're saying at the top of the funnel, which indeed is really the long path. Most people who would choose that path would at least go down the funnel.
Yeah.
So you're going very high the funnel, and then you try to capture emails and maybe SMS, and you try to build a list so that you can contact these people, and then you funnel the traffic to your Amazon listing and Shopify site.
Exactly. Yeah, and we also have articles on the site that are middle funnel and the end of the funnel. It's great when like we sell tactical gloves, for instance, and so like if someone's searching tactical gloves, like what are the best tactical gloves? The search in Google, that's a search that's really at the end of the funnel. Someone's looking to buy. And if we can rank for that and circumvent the whole process, great, and just have them go buy. We love those searches, but we also love something more at the top of the funnel. What should you have in your bug out bag, or what should you do in case of an emergency, or whatever the top of the funnel type things are that get people on the list is equally as good.
Okay. And do you do any kind of tracking in terms of, because when you go at the top of the funnel, you can invest a lot of effort, energy, and money, and you're not necessarily sure that will actually generate a return on investment or how much of it will work. Like, do you just like throw a lot of effort at it, or do you have some more techniques on it?
It's a little more sophisticated than that, and then just kind of throwing darts at the board. I mean, basically, I agree. First of all, like anybody doing a very top of funnel search, very, very low chance, statistically, that they're going to ever buy something from us.
Yeah.
But there is a chance nonetheless. And over time, in terms of just sheer volume, it does happen. But for every person we can get on our email list, that increases the likelihood that they will purchase. We also have ad revenue, but by just having sheer traffic. But really what it comes down to is if you have a site that's all 100% affiliate based at that end of funnel stuff, it's very hard to rank. Google's kind of gotten really good at kind of giving pure affiliate sites the boot. And so we really look at our very top of funnel content as a way to increase traffic and awareness and broadness of our site, to attract links. A lot of the top of funnel content is, gets a lot of inbound links. And then again, there's a small percentage chance that we get them on our email list, and eventually they'll do one of our free plus shipping offers or some type of our deep discount offer. We have a whole funnel that kind of tries to get them into that. But really, at the end of the day, I mean, like the real thing that we're trying to do is rank for the real money terms. But a lot of the real money terms are kind of also in that affiliate realm that Google doesn't quite love, and so you got to kind of play this dance of making sure Google doesn't think you're a scammy affiliate property, and that you're more legitimate.
Right. Okay. And let's say, do you have any kind of guideline you would give to someone who's starting their store like this? Let's say they go with that approach of content generation, like, okay, well, top of the funnel, that can look overwhelming. Like, how much content do you generate for this? You have a cadency, like we post, I don't know, 3 blog posts a week or 1 a week, or like how big of a funnel are you trying to build when you go top of the funnel?
Yeah, I mean, we're at a point right now where we're doing 20 articles a month. And so we've really scaled things up, and we have a whole team now in the Philippines that's really just cranking out content nonstop. I mean, so but I always also say to people, like, don't try to start at my step 1,000 if you're at step 1, because you would go bankrupt, right? I mean, we've been able to build a team like this for a number of years. And so I think at the beginning is, just get an article a month up or something, or if you can do an article a week, I mean, certainly that's even better. The actual cadence isn't the issue. Google doesn't favor a site that posts once a day or twice a day versus one that posts once a month. There's a lot of really great examples of some sites that have 10 to 15, maybe 20 pieces of content on their website that rank number one for a lot of really good terms. And the reason they'll rank number one is because they have the best article about that subject. I mean, Google's really good at getting the article to the top that's really authoritative and is well written, answers people's questions. And so, yes, we're doing things at a big volume now, but the quality has never dropped. In fact, our quality continues to increase. We've been really working on producing just super, my team basically has been told, if you're going to write an article, it needs to be the best article that's ever been written about this subject in the history of the internet. And the internet's been around for a long time now. There's a lot of things out there. And so, they're looking at, what will be our future competitors' articles and stuff before we start writing an article. And we're looking for lanes right now. There's still plenty of them where, there just isn't really great content about the subject out there yet. And we want to be that article that really is the best.
And you're trying that with the Philippines. That's difficult because most of them are not native English speakers. Neither am I, but but still, like the quality of content that you're putting the bar extremely high, the best content that was ever written for the internet. So you're still able to find that level of quality of labor and writers in the Philippines for this.
The writing position specifically is the hardest one we hire for. I mean, I think we have 27 total employees now in the Philippines, and I think either 4 or 5 of them, maybe 6 now, are full-time writers. And so, but whatever it is, I mean, when we do have we always have an open requisition for writers. We really, at the end of the day, have a unlimited want for more writers, I should say. I mean, and so we're constantly trying to find them, but it is quite difficult. We do have a full-time HR person, hiring manager now, that's all they do is they're not looking just for writers, but they're looking to fill all of our positions. But they're there. I mean, the people are certainly there. I mean, you're right. English is not necessarily their first language, but there are a lot of people there where English either is their first language or they learned it right alongside of Tagalog or whatever local language that they know. There's lots of well-educated people in the Philippines. The United States occupied the Philippines for a very long time. I've spent a lot of time in the Philippines personally. I've never had a problem communicating in English to anybody there. Like everyone knows English. Just how good are they? Are they able to get to that native English writing level, which is certainly a higher bar. And so a lot of people that we're hiring have been newspaper writers or magazine writers, or they're doing marketing for some other company previously. My favorite people that we've hired are usually people that have their own blog, their own blog about kind of themselves or their journeys or whatever. They write as a hobby. You'd be surprised. I mean, again, it is trying to find a needle in a haystack. There's no doubt about it. But they're definitely there. And our team does a great job.
All right. And then again, in that decision for the next product, are there any specific criteria that you're looking for? Like now I'm hearing that you started more like drop shipping, like most people do, and then you moved up and you're probably now you're a brand owner, you get your own product produced. I'm pretty sure that also, let's say your little teddy bear stuff there, that they're probably unique design that nobody else has that exact design. Yeah. So like, is there any metrics that you want to give us ballpark? Like what should you look for in terms of like margins or market or whatever to decide that, yeah, this product makes sense from a business and entrepreneurship point of view to be a choice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from the margin perspective, absolute bottom line is you got to buy it for $1 and sell it for $3. You buy it for 10, sell it for 30, 3x markup. Basically, that's the absolute lowest you can ever do, and have a successful e-commerce business. But realistically, we're looking at the 4-to-1 ratio is our bottom line these days, because especially now the tariffs have kind of creeped in and a bunch of other fees. Shipping's gotten expensive, and Amazon fees keep getting more. We're trying to be in that. If we can buy it for $10 and sell it for 40 range is where we want to be on the margin question. And the teddy bear question you mentioned, we own a brand called Wild Baby, and yeah, they're unique designs. We found some unique designs through a manufacturer that, and then we had another like engineer kind of change them up in a way that made them so we put a hot and cold pack inside the animal. And so we used someone else's stuffed animal that, we found this manufacturer. We had then asked them to create, they had a style that we really liked. We asked them to create different animals just for us that are our unique designs. So they're differentiated. And we have this hot and cold pack thing in them, which most stuffed animals don't have. So we have something that's different. I think that's really your other thing you gotta be focused on is some sort of differentiation, and it can't be the same product that everybody else sells. Because if you have a successful product, it's going to pop up on the radar, right? You got to kind of think again, begin with the end in mind. So you have something that's successful, helium-10, jungle scout, elite seller, boom, like that's going to come up in someone's search. They're going to see that. The easier it is for someone to then source your exact product and start selling it, the less time you're going to have at the top, right? I mean, that's just the bottom line. And so can someone copy our stuffed animals? 100%. They can, but it's going to be harder than a lot of the other products out there. And a lot of people will just give up because the differentiation, you can go make another stuffed animal, but there's more to the process. We use multiple manufacturers for that particular product because the hot and cold pack that goes inside of it is manufactured by someone else. And we have another relationship in China that does the assembly and kind of packages the whole thing for us. And so we make the complication the bar to entry, and make it more difficult to copy. Our most successful product ever was our gel pen set. It's been copied now. You go look at this on Amazon. I mean, it's kind of a shame and makes me sick every time I look at it when I do the search, like gel pens for adult coloring books. But we were the first people ever to, this again, when I'm, don't want an award for any of this. I'm just trying to illustrate the little differences you can make to have a really successful product. I mean, we were the first ones to ever take a set of gel pens, print names on them so people knew what color they were going back to. You want crimson red or brick red or neon red or whatever. You want to use the same thing when you're coloring to have the same, if you go back the next day to use the same color. Most people weren't doing that. They weren't printing the names on them. We included a set of refills in our set. We bundled a set of refills in because when you're coloring, you suck up the ink really quickly. And so for an extra like 80 cents or whatever it cost us to put the refills in there, we created this huge perception of value with this product compared to all the other competitors out there. The other thing we realized is that people that were into coloring didn't want to necessarily just throw their pens in the drawer or leave them in the cheap, crappy plastic thingy they came in. So we put them in a case. It made it very easy for people to travel with and or store them nicely. And we packaged it in this like Apple quality box, like where even an adult could have like this great experience unpacking the product. And we sold it for a premium. We sold it for $29.99 when all the other gel pens are selling for $6.99 to $9.99. So people were willing to pay for this better product. And we had a clear lane for this for 12 to 18 months before someone finally figured out like how to do this. Because even though what I explained is actually quite easy, it sounds quite easy, I should say, it isn't. Because like in order for us to do that, we had to find a gel pen manufacturer that was even willing to print on the pens. The MOQ to do that was like 1 million pens or something crazy. So we had to buy an astronomical amount of pens. We had to pay for tooling to have all the nameplates made. And then we had to have another manufacturer make the case and another manufacturer make the box and find someone to put all that together. Eventually, between people finding the opportunity on helium-10 and jungle scout, et cetera, and factories becoming aware of it, eventually some trading company or factory just duplicated and made it super simple to like I threw it on Alibaba, made it super simple to copy that, which is fine. I mean, again, we're always just trying, and we're trying to develop the next product and stay the next step ahead. But you want to keep yourself a clear lane for as long as you possibly can. And for us, that product was about 18 months, and we sold like over $1 million of that product alone during that time.
Oh, very nice, and especially at that price point, $29, it's still very affordable for any adult that wants to buy a nice pack of pens. And yeah, and if they were not printing color names on it, totally makes sense to add that. I remember even Prismacolor in elementary school had names printed on them, so this is kind of missing. Okay, that's a very interesting story. Thanks for sharing.
That existed in the colored pencil world, but just didn't exist in the gel pen world. It was, again, I'm not that brilliant, right? I mean, I just was like, you look around the room, you think about your customers and what they might want. And that was an easy thing to just kind of figure out. Like you said, you were a kid and like understood you wanted the names on it, but like shockingly, no one had done it to that point. And so if you can just make that little modification, there's tons of opportunity like this out there still, like tons of it. You just gotta, stop being the guy that's just like looking to find the thing off Alibaba, send it into Amazon with no differentiation and hope to be successful. That isn't going to work. You need to take a few minutes, do some extra thinking, put your thinking cap on, maybe smoke a little weed or something. I don't know, get creative and figure out a way to differentiate in some way that makes it hard for the next guy to just snap copy you. Like, I mean, it will happen. And that's the other thing you got to like just deal with. I think as an entrepreneur, they always say like imitation is a sincerest form of flattery. It doesn't really ever feel that way. But the reality is that once you are successful with something, someone else is going to copy it. This happened to me every single thing I've ever done. And so the better you are at dealing with that, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a product world, so you cannot just say like, oh, that's what like a lawyer is offering his, services for 30 years and that's that. Then differentiation factor, there are some, but it's limited also. But it's or you could say actually it's very different. It's unique. It's the personality of that person, the relationship, and all that. But in your product world, somebody just comes up and copies your product, and that's that. So that's difficult, especially if you're the brand, you're the maker. Of course, you have a manufacturer preparing this for you, but you're still the maker of this thing. Unlike, let's say, if you start selling whatever, let's say tools, and DeWalt is always making the new version of that tool for you, or Apple is always making the latest version of the device for you. That burden is on you to always stay competitive with the latest and greatest version and all this. So from what I'm hearing, I'm guessing that your game level will just go up and up. So the next time you start another company, for sure, it's going to be, again, you're going to be a brand owner. You're going to have modifications to it. You're going to ask the factories to piece together some different parts. So it's more difficult for people to put that together.
Yep.
And you're going to have a clean lane for a longer time to hope to have a year and a half of profits. And that is assuming, of course, always a gamble that this will be a successful product.
It's always a gamble. But I mean, I think that, if you're a good entrepreneur, you can stack the odds in your favor. And that's all I'm ever looking for, right? Like, I feel like if I can be right even just 60% of the time, that's a good, good ratio. And we've definitely been more successful than 60% over the years. And so, we never try to be 100% successful. We take some chances, but we try to stack the deck in our favor ethically and in a white hat way, because I don't want to be tossing and turning all night worrying about Google or Amazon or some multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar company even these days now shutting my account down, and you can't even get the time of day from them. So we try to do all of this in a way that keeps me from having to lose sleep over that.
Right. Is there anything else that you give as a tip from your own personal experience to people starting, let's say, a new business venture like this in terms of a new product that they want to bring to market?
Well, we specific to my products and ventures, the first thing that comes to mind is cash flow. You got to really understand your cash needs. One of the things that it was interesting for me as I was learning e-commerce, and we came into e-commerce in a really good place financially. We had been running a successful affiliate business, which has like zero expenses for over a decade, that we had just sold and had a nice cash out and had, by my terms, the way that I grew up, we had lots of money, right? We were doing really well. You get into e-commerce, it'll bankrupt anybody. Make anybody look like they're poor, basically. Not necessarily bankrupt you, but make anybody look like you're poor. Because even if you have when you have a successful product, like you can actually go bankrupt from that, because like you're just trying to keep inventory in stock. And so when you're planning out how much cash you need to have a successful product, don't just think about the first order. You need to kind of extrapolate out to the second, third, maybe even fourth order, and understand that there's a trajectory of success of when you finally do get a payback like, so you're going to be paying taxes, showing a profit on paper, but then have no cash in the bank. You're going to be in this weird dilemma. And understanding that ahead of time, I think, can be quite useful. So using a small example, let's use these gel pens as a for instance. That was about $100,000 order, our first order. That's a lot of money. It was a big risk, but we thought that there was a need for it, and so we took the chance, and we were obviously quite right. But and we had planned for the future cash needs. But just to show you, what ends up happening is, like, that container comes in, you start selling them, you start realizing, oh, I'm selling 100 of these a day. I only have 60 days of inventory left now. I need to order more gel pens. We haven't even finished selling the first batch of gel pens. So now you need to come up with another $100,000 to buy another container of gel pens. And if it's really successful and you start selling even more, you're going to need another. And so you keep on needing to, like, buy more and more inventory to, like, get yourself at a point where you're chasing the growth, and you'll need more money than organically the product is putting off, even at good margin, because again, you're having to order, when you're ordering from China, from Asia, really 120 days in advance of when you're going to get the product. 90 days at your best case scenario. It takes 30 days to manufacture it at an absolute minimum. 30 days on the water. That's the absolute quickest you can do it. But that also doesn't include, like, the week that the stuff waits at the port before it gets picked up, and the, like, 3 to 5 days or 7 days it takes to clear customs on this end, and then it's got to get trucked from there over to Amazon or to a 3PL. Realistically, it's 3 months, and so you're having to buy inventory way in advance. And so understanding the cash needs of all of this is really important, and having good accounting and good forecasting, super, super important before you hop into this.
And I see right away a huge risk in what you're saying, because what if the demand is just like a temporary spike that you did not understand? Maybe there was something obvious, like back to school, and you didn't think about it, or maybe there's some other factor going on, like, why are the gel pens selling that much? Will it keep up at that pace, or will you actually be stuck with $100,000 of a pen reorder that will not even sell? And then what do you do with that?
No, it's a really good point. I mean, that's the thing that can make or break you on your first, let's say, dozen products or something, right? I mean, you got to, and it's so stressful. I think back to exactly what you're talking about, because we certainly fell into that camp a couple of times, right? I mean, it's inevitable. Like, there's just the unknown. You see this success, you don't think, oh crap. Like, I remember one year we started selling a whole bunch of, like, bunny rabbits, and didn't, like, quite understand that it was Easter, or the back to school thing with the gel pens. It's funny you mentioned that specifically. We didn't anticipate that, and you just see sales go up, and then, like, in October, they're back down. There's all kinds of things like this that have happened to us over the years. When you're in your first year, you don't have any historical information. It's awesome. We're in year 7 with some of this stuff now, like our ice pack stuff. I mean, was year 6, year 7, almost year 7. Oh my God, it's, like, so predictable, right? I mean, now we have 7 years of data. We've been through every season. We've been, our peak season is in the summer, spring and summer, because people are more active. We know that people slow down in the winter. We know exactly what months, what products are going to do what. And we can reorder with almost, like, surgical precision, and have the exact right amount of stuff we need. But in year 1, when we just launched some new products for that same brand right now, we're having a hell of a time trying to figure out what the proper amount of inventory is. Even years into this, it's still quite tricky. And it's only a matter of time, not a matter of if, but when exactly what you're talking about is going to happen. And again, it's just, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal emotionally with a container full of gel pens sitting in a warehouse that you can't sell? And everybody kind of deals with it differently. I've learned to just cut my losses. We donate them and move on, and just get rid of them, and stop paying storage fees, stop paying all the other fees and things, or even talking about it. And again, if you can be in the range that we're at, which is like 70 to 80% successful launching products, the ones that aren't successful, you just cut your losses and move on. The most important thing is adding incremental revenue and profit. And
you don't try to liquidate them, like at near cost or something like that?
We've tried. I haven't found a good solution for that. Typically the things that aren't selling well at retail, even when we start dumping the price way down, are things that people just aren't interested in buying, even at liquidation prices. And in the US, realistically, you get just the same tax write-off by just donating them. If you have $100,000 worth of goods, especially when I was in California, we were close to a 50% tax bracket. You just donate it, move on, you get 50K back in taxes. And so you really only lost 50K net, which is still obviously a lot of money. We're talking about a $100,000 order. But if you were to recover 10 cents on the dollar, it looks very similar. You're going to get $10,000 back on your $100,000. You've now lost 90,000. The tax write-off is still 45,000. It's very little difference, but like the amount of time and energy it takes to try to find somebody to liquidate that to, and then it just it doesn't end up in. At least when we donate, I know it ends up in a better spot. A lot of times, like we donated some of the coloring stuff, but we never had a problem with gel pens. We had some problems with one of our books that didn't sell well. So we donated that to like a children's organization that actually handed them out and gave them to kids, and they actually got to use them. We also found a seniors organization because a lot of seniors like the color, and so they were passed out to old folks' homes and people that actually could use them rather than giving them somebody at 10 cents on the dollar that's just going to look to resell them and make money themselves. Which I don't begrudge them for doing that. We all have to make money, but the difference was so slim that it's just easier to just get rid of it and cut your losses.
It could be good PR as well. Your company's making donation. You can do those press release and all that kind of stuff. If it's big enough, what's being donated.
You can. I actually, and I agree with that. You certainly could do that. I chose specifically on those particular things not to do that because I don't really want to come off as that guy. And like a lot of times it's like if a tree falls in the forest, does it still make any noise or whatever? Like I don't need to broadcast out some of these things. I'm weird like this from personality. Yes, we definitely missed the PR opportunity for sure. And I wouldn't recommend, this is one thing I would not recommend following me on, but those types of things that I do, I don't necessarily need the attention.
Yeah, so that cash flow advice is really a wonderful gold nugget. We're coming on top of the hour. Again, just shout out question. Is there any last tip that comes top of mind that you'd like to share?
I would say that there's a really good book. I just had Gino Wickman on our podcast, and he wrote a new book. His first book, or not his first book was Traction, which is like, I'm just like in love with. It's changed our business. But he has another book about, I forgot the darn name of it. He's going to kill me. Entrepreneurial Leap. It's over there. Entrepreneurial Leap. I would recommend reading that. If you are, kind of just getting started, it's a good way to know if you're really an entrepreneur or like a one-upreneur. You got to be kind of sick and twisted in the head to do it. And a lot of people get 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the pike, realize that they're not making any money because they were just bad at being an entrepreneur, or realize they're not cut out for it. And it seems so alluring. It's like, oh, you're going to be your own boss and you can set your own hours and work from anywhere and all these really cool things. And even if you are pushing yourself into this, like as a square peg into this round hole, you're doing it anyway because it's just all these cool, catchy things get your attention. But the reality is that being an entrepreneur is really freaking tough. And again, you got to be kind of sick and twisted to want to do it. It makes no sense when you start like laying out what you have to do in order to do it. And Entrepreneurial Leap is a really great book that kind of puts you through some tests. If you answer the questions honestly, kind of grade you on a scale of 0 to 100. I think you got to be above an 85 or above a 90 to really go do it. And you can save yourself a bunch of time, money, and aggravation, I think, by reading that book. I highly recommend it. It was funny, as someone who scored a 97 on this test, who would have been a 99 if I answered it 20 years ago when I was younger. I've definitely dropped a couple points because you start losing some energy, unfortunately, as you get older, and it's not as fun as it was the first time around. But as I was reading through some of the stuff he had in there, I'm like, man, I am like mental. Like there was something like, it made me feel like there's something wrong with me. Like I feel like I'm having a session with a therapist who's like, you're psycho. And so it's just a good book to read.
I did not read that one yet, but the other one by Gino Wickman, Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. This is an amazing book, and it's becoming really, really popular in the community to run on EOS, the Entrepreneurship Operating System. Like we partially run on that, and it really helps the business. Definitely, for any company, especially if a company for 10 to 250 employees, EOS is really amazing. Above 250 employees can go to the scaling up system from Vern Harnish, Rockefeller Habits. And EOS is a spin-off of scaling up, but adapted to smaller companies. It's really amazing. So, all right. Well, Mike, if people want to find you, what's the best way to find you and your podcast?
Yeah, EcomCrew, EcomCrew. Anywhere you get your podcast, Shopify, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. Also, EcomCrew.com or EcomCrew on all the social media handles. And if you want to email support@ecomcrew.com, will find its way to me.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was a fun chat.